This week, we speak with Jay Durga from CertCore International. In the news segment, a SIM attack and the browser you've never heard of, a CPU side channel with a namespace collision, 5 important controls and their threat models, and more. Stay tuned for Application Security Weekly.
This is a Security Weekly production. False positives suck. With so many mobile apps to test, how much time will you waste on false positives? Eliminate them today with NowSecure. Only NowSecure automates static, dynamic, and interactive testing on real Android and iOS devices. Now you get speed, accuracy, and efficiency for DevOps, plus the broadest coverage of security, compliance, and privacy issues. Why waste time on false positives? Visit securityweekly.com/NowSecure to learn how to scale your mobile AppSec testing with NowSecure. Signal Sciences secures the most important web applications, APIs, and microservices of the world's leading companies, protecting over 7,500 applications and 150 billion production requests per week. Signal Sciences Next-Gen WAF and RASP help companies increase security and maintain site reliability without sacrificing velocity, all at the lowest total cost of ownership. Signal Sciences patented technology protects any application against any attack, with integrations into any DevOps toolchain. Signal Sciences, demand more from your WAF. Learn more at signalsciences.com/PSW.
Welcome to Application Security Weekly. This is episode 76, recorded September 16th, 2019. I'm your host, Mike Shima, and I'm here with Matt Alderman.
Hey, Matt. Happy Monday. Good morning.
Happy Monday and good morning. And once again, we have John Kinsella with us. Hey, John.
Hey, guys. My favorite people to spend a Monday with.
And you're back, and we missed you for the last couple weeks.
I know. World's traveling. One of these days it'll stop.
We're just going to make you our remote roving correspondent. We'll have an entirely new geographic segment.
Hey, can I get a tax write-off for that?
Talk to Matt. We do have some exciting news about the Security Weekly webcast program. We are now partnered with ISC Squared as an official CPE provider. If you attend any of our webcasts, you will be receiving 1 CPE credit per webcast. Register for one of our upcoming webcasts with Tom Stitt of ExtraHop or Mehul Revankar of SaltStack, or both, by going to securityweekly.com/webcasts. If you have missed any of our previously recorded webcasts, you can find our on-demand library at securityweekly.com/on-demand. Security Weekly will be at Hacker Halted in Atlanta, Georgia this October 10th through 11th. If you are attending and would like to sponsor an interview, please submit your interest on our conference request form at securityweekly.com/booking. EC Council is offering our listeners a $100 discount to attend the 2-day conference. Use discount code HH19SW when you register, or go to securityweekly.com/hackerhalted and register there. Jay Durga works as an IT architect for CertCore International, specializing in application security. He started as a programmer and has over 19 years of experience with diverse roles in IT. He has earned a CISSP and is currently pursuing a master's in cybersecurity. At this juncture of his career, he's deeply devoted and committed to cybersecurity. He got inspired listening to Security Weekly podcasts, and that motivated him to develop a tool for the OWASP Application Security Verification Standard. Hi, Jay. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello, everyone. It is nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, and thank you for being inspired by listening to the Security Weekly podcast. That's actually pretty exciting to hear. And what's even cooler is that you've dived into the OWASP ASVS, and you want to share some of that work with the broader community. So why don't we learn a little bit about? We should start with what the ASVS is, and then we can talk about what you've been working on.
Yeah, definitely, sure. So I have been working in IT from last 19 years, and I was not a security guy. I was started as a programmer, but as I started and working on with various web applications and started embracing diverse roles within the IT. So it happened to me on one of the engagement. We did the pen testing of our application. So that's where I got into I got the first taste of security for during that time, and from there it has been a snowball effect. And and after I got my CSP credentials, I started involving myself more into the security world, and I started listening Security Weekly podcasts on a regular basis. One of the take I took out of listening to the podcast was giving back to the community, because I learned a lot from community, and it was for my time to do something. And this at the same time I was working on looking at the ASVS project, and this started as a fun project for me. I started putting it together in an Excel file, and then it grew so huge. And I thought, you know what, it is something everyone in the community can make use of it. That's where we are now today. So I have few slides to share with you guys. So hopefully this session won't be a death by PPT session, but let's make it interactive, and we'll see what's happening with the ASVS. So are you guys ready for Breaking Bad with the ASVS?
Yeah, let's do it.
For sure.
Okay. So the ASVS, I mean, this is one of the application security verification standard from OWASP. It provides the guidance for testing and developers on various security controls we can have in the web application, and also it provides like how we can develop securely and how we can operate, and also how we can test those controls. So there are the OWASP project consists of 3 levels of assurance: level 1, 2, and 3. And at the highest level, there are 286 controls and 14 verification topics. So some of the highlights of this version is this version was released earlier this year in the March. The current version of the project is 4.0. There were few changes they made to the project. So some of them are like the authentication verification controls. Actually, they are completely aligned with NIST 800 63 standards. When we look at the level 1 assurance level, it actually meets the requirements of PCI DSS 321 section 6.5 controls. So if you're developing any web application which makes use of any payment related information, you definitely need to look into this set of controls, and have those in place in the application. So in this version, the OWASP did a good job. They took the holistic approach, and they combined pretty much all their projects into a single platform. So they have considered secure by design principles, the top 10 OWASP top 10, the proactive controls. Everything is baked into this project. So now you can see pretty much we are not just talking about OWASP top 10 or proactive controls. So they have taken pretty much everything and put them together. So the advantage of this version is now, because it is referring multiple frameworks and standards, so we don't need to go back to NIST or go to PCI. So they are all talking the same language now. So that's a very good thing.
I think, Jay, I think that's a really great thing to emphasize too, and to add a little bit of maybe history. Like as you mentioned, ASVS has been around for about 10 years, and for example, the OWASP Top 10 that you were mentioning too, the OWASP Top 10 is more about, here are all the things that can go wrong with an app. And it's sort of like saying, okay, here's some things that go wrong. Now, hey, developers, don't let these things go wrong. Whereas the ASVS says, here are actually some controls that you can start to apply as you're building these applications. And by the way, not only will these controls help you, meet PCI requirements, but these controls are also aligning with other standards. They're not trying to reinvent something or be competitive to other standards. And especially, I love the fact that you called out that NIST 863, because that is very much an evidence-based standard around authentication and authorization. And it's the whole reason why we can now finally stop talking about rotating passwords every 90 days and talk about more meaningful controls around identity and multi-factor authentication and things like that. So that's just one of the things that I just wanted to really highlight as you're describing that ASVS.
Definitely, yeah, that's a very good point. Um, so apart from those things, there are some good things about this project. Is they are also including the CWE numbers. There is a improved controls of our modern applications. When we look at our current technologies, we have so many diverse new technologies. We have containers, APIs. Uh, so web applications, the microservices. So all those technologies are considered. So it helps us, any DevOps team, to come up with a good controls around the web applications and build a secure application.
Yeah, if you look at the number of controls and the number of topics, think about this for a second, right? I mean, PCI DSS has 12 sections. There's 14 sections in this application security standard, right? This kind of a controls matrix. And it's meeting like one part of this broader PCI. So from a comprehensive standpoint, I mean, this is pretty deep, because this is on a very specific application security topic, and has 286 controls all the way up at level 3. I mean, this is a really deep dive into prescriptive controls that I don't think we've seen before around application security, which I think is interesting.
Yes, definitely. The another point I want to highlight with respect to PCI is, like, when we look at the requirements of PCI section 321 6.5, they talk about having controls within the applications with respect to OWASP top 10 or SANS 25, where 25 things can go wrong with your application. But yeah, definitely ASVS talks much more than that, and it has to come up with secure application, you have to have 131 controls within the which are spread among 14 different topics.
Right.
So if you guys want to talk about anything more on this, or we can jump onto the Excel tool. Yeah, there is another thing I wanted to highlight. See, when we look at the our traditional secure SDLC process, and also where exactly ASVS fits in this process. So as you can see from the picture, it is definitely the requirements and testing phases, or the um, uh, phases where we can make utilize of the ASVS project. And also, this is not the, in my opinion, actually the ASVS drives the entire process, because once you set your requirements, that's what drives the development and design phases. And also the later the testing has to perform based on your requirements.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the neat things about the preamble to the ASVS. They have a really good explanation of the different levels, level 1, 2, and 3, and they start by saying level 1 is pretty much the baseline. If you're building any type of web application or web-based service, you should be following these controls. And by the way, it's one, there is that verification is part of the ASVS. And they say that they've tried to make most of the controls at level 1 to be testable from an external perspective, meaning you could take a external web application penetration test against it. So just have somebody open their browser, point at your API, your service, your website, and they should be able to test and verify that these controls are in place against various, the various scenarios across those 14 categories.
Yes.
What's more interesting to me, or I think what's more beneficial, is that they're also really saying, don't stop there. And also, by the way, pen testing often just happens to be like that very surface level and that very point in time. from an external perspective. So once you start to get into level 2 and level 3, you need some tools that are part of that continuous process, and developers should be incorporating them into that SDLC. So very much the ASVS becomes really apart from that whole beginning to end of that life cycle, rather than just, we're going to build a website, we'll hire some external penetration test on it, it didn't find any XSS or SQL injection, and we'll move on. So that's another thing that it sets a really good tone for how an organization should be adopting or using ASVS as part of their tools, or as part of their processes. I think that's also what you were kind of leaning towards here as we start to talk about like the spreadsheet and tracking and managing these aspects of the ASVS.
That's correct. So we can think of this as a two ways we can make utilize of this tool. Like one is shift left. So when people are talking about shifting security to the left, so we want to bake security right during the requirements phase. So use this tool and come up with a sort of security controls you want to have in place in your application, and that forms the basis for your testing phase. And second way is, okay, now I am not building an application, but I am getting it from somewhere. But now you can actually go and do the assessment against any of these levels and say, okay, if it meets your needs, yes, you're going ahead with that product or solution. Otherwise, you have to look for something else, or ask them to fix those gaps.
So before we bring up that spreadsheet, two things. First, for our listeners, I think the majority of the people who consume this podcast are listeners, not watchers. We do this on YouTube video, every time an episode comes out. And in particular, what I want to point out here is this PowerPoint, which Jay has put together. First, you're missing his title slide complete with Breaking Bad font, but he's got some pretty good tables in here and charts, like actually listing through these sections and what's going on. But Jay, what I wanted to hit before we go to that next, or 2 slides forward, when you come into the spreadsheet, and hopefully if we get time, I want to come back and talk about how you got into community and that type of thing later. But for right now, I don't think you just got into this for the hell of it. So tell us a little bit about what was the pain point which made you start getting interested in cataloging this stuff and getting active in OWASP in general, and in particular ASVS, and what, as we talk through this spreadsheet, you just mentioned 2 examples of, testing, vendor, product, and things like that. But what really was sort of a driver for you? That's sort of, for a lot of our listeners, sort of when they get some concrete examples, that brings things home a little bit.
So, as I told you, I started diving more and more into security field, especially with applications, because I am from applications development background. So when I started reading upon and came up, everyone talks about OWASP top 10. That's where it stops. Okay, as long as we are fixing the top 10, we are good. But that is not enough, in my opinion. We have to go beyond that, because there are so many mistakes we can make with our application during the either development or during operations phase. I call them out of band attacks. For example, the log files. We need to look into the log files, what actually goes into the log files, and also we need to secure them during the production when it goes into production, so that only required people have access to that log files. Because just by going through the log file, I can make out a lot of things about the application, what is happening within the application, and how look for weaknesses within the application. Second thing, another thing I can think of is the email communication. We have integrated our application generating auto emails, but we should also monitor who has access to those logs, because it could give away some of the important information about our application and things like that.
So whereas the OWASP top 10 came out really to sort of focus on, these are the top things someone needs to be worried about in a while you're 2 days before you go to production, you're actually taking a step back and saying, hey, there's a lot more going on in there, if I can summarize what you're saying, and saying, hey, this is, at least have some of these things on your radar. Would that be sort of a fair way to say it?
Yeah, definitely, yes. So we should not just look at the OWASP top 10. They are, again, point in time, and it depends on it is an overall picture, right? They are not looking at specific application or specific industry. So this is we need to look at how we can build secure applications. So that is where this ASVS will really help us design and develop secure applications right from the requirements phase.
And that's got to be tough though, because I can probably, rattle off all the OWASP top 10, but if I'm trying to mentally keep track of 131 controls or twice that, if I want to get to level 3, how does that, how painful that does that become for you as a developer trying to track these controls, let alone on one app, and then when you have dozens, if not hundreds of apps across the organization?
Yes, definitely it is not a one single person job. So we have to approach it as a team. We have to come together, security, development team, and also operations team, and work together towards this. Because some of the things developers can come up with a good controls, whereas some of the controls, security team plays a very major role implementing some of the controls. So we have to come together and work as a team. And that's the only way we can win this war.
I think, and to John's point, then you started to. I'm going to imagine you started to feel some of these pain points, or you saw that there was, a need for something beyond just reading the ASVS PDF and trying to track through the controls or trying to apply them. So, what were some of the ways that either, if you would elaborate a little bit more on how you saw developers struggling with understanding the controls, or on the opposite side, being able to make sure developers are actually implementing them. And so when we can actually say, yes, we've actually done 131 out of 131, or we've done at least those that are relevant to this application, and those that aren't relevant, we can mark off as not applicable.
Yes, that's a great point, because let's look at data protection verification requirements. So this is talking about how we are going to protect the personal information of the personal information we are collecting from users. So so we have to make sure we are involving everyone involved in this, making this decision, because before we even collect, we may need to bring in legal team, we may need to bring in security team. So it is not just developer who can say, okay, no, you know what, I'm not going to collect email address for or any other personal information. So we have to take it as a team approach, and only then we can come up with a good controls and solve this problem.
So what about, and maybe we keep teasing the spreadsheet, we haven't taken a look at it yet.
Yes.
But what about, here's maybe a leading question for that. I kind of alluded to, not all of the controls are necessarily relevant to applications. Some of them may be particularly stateless, or they may not be handling particular types of information, or for that matter, some of them may not even have like an authenticated experience to them. So that you can narrow things down. So what can you do to sort of approach just tracking all of these, but then when some controls are present, some are absent, and some don't need to be there? Those are three very important distinctions. So how can you sort of get a warm fuzzies, if you will, or a happy face or sad face about the state of your application?
So definitely that's where this My Excel tool comes in handy. So you decide and define what is your requirement at the design phase, and you track that going forward in your various development processes. So initially you will define, okay, these are my controls, these are my controls I want to have in my application, and then development team will build those solutions, and then testing will come and verify those controls we have defined during the requirements phase. Or so we talk about, we say there are 131 controls to achieve level 1, but when you go and actually take a look at them, some majority of them we can actually solve those controls using already security solutions we have in place for the CI/CD pipeline. The majority of them talk about it could be a SQL injection or session management. So, example, the stored cryptography verification. We already have tools for verifying those controls, so we can knock out majority of them with the already available tools. So there are very few things you will end up with deciding how we want to go about it. Again, we have to take the team approach and see what makes sense for us, and see how we can achieve them.
Cool. I think there's a lot there in the sense of the like native cloud capabilities to take care of some of those controls, because you're kind of saying that some controls may be difficult to address, others may be really easy depending on how a cloud provider presents key management application capabilities. And even, for example, going from level 2 to 3, level 3 has a couple areas around backups and encrypting the backups. And so it's also possible that a lot of the, like if you go cloud native, that a lot of these cloud capabilities can actually help you with that, so that we've avoided trying to say that ASVS is a checklist, and I think I want to continue to do that. But the effort in terms of meeting the ASVS becomes a lot easier, I think, in a lot of cloud environments. And one of the things that ASVS was also saying is they reformulated it, and they took it up the approach with the understanding that, yes, we're focused on web, but not all web applications look the same, because some of them may be actually in Lambda and serverless. Some of them may be within containers. We do want to address, just like you were saying, the CI/CD process. And so some things can be really easy to take care of. Others might be a little bit harder. And I'm curious if you, Jay, have seen, do you have a favorite handful of controls that you turn to that are really good at lowering large amounts of risk, or that are really easy to implement and can take care of a lot of risk, so you have even kind of a win-win situation there, or something like that? Because there's a lot of controls here, and it's not easy for any team to go after every single one very quickly.
Yes, I mean, I have some few favorite controls around like data protection, because that is very important thing in current world. I mean, when we look at recently, if you followed the news, like there was a Indian app, they actually leaked some of the medical information to Facebook. So that is data protection is very important in today's world. There are so many integrations with the third-party tools, and when we download the libraries, they might have already baked in some of those features, and if you don't go and turn it off, we will end up with messier situation. Malicious code verification is another good thing we can think of, because we don't know. We are for a developer, as long as the code works, doesn't care what else it is doing. So that is very, very important control we can think of. And also the configuration verification. As I said, that we have so many diverse infrastructure, and the cloud technologies are available for developers. So we never think about what is open. Some of the things like which go unnoticed are the development environments. Because all our effort is focused on protecting the production, we forget about what's happening within the development and testing environment. Do we have the same controls of monitoring? No, most of the cases it is not. So it is very important to look into development and test environments as well.
So what does it actually look like to, follow through and track some of the, track adherence to the ASVS? And I think that's what your, spreadsheet is intended to help with. So talk us through a little bit of that, and kind of maybe show us a little bit of, how that would benefit someone trying to take knowledge of that the ASVS exists, having a very large PDF and then actually turning it into a program that helps your SDLC.
Yes, definitely. So to start with the Excel tool, all you have to do is download my Excel file from my GitHub. The link for the Excel file is posted in the show notes. So that is a very good tool. You can start with it. Second document I would like to highlight is the Secure Application Development Guideline, which has been put together by my friend Drew from Security in 5 podcast. So that goes very good with this tool. It has a lot of references to each control and how it is a very good reference document, I would say. So the third location we can look for ASVS is official OWASP project website, where we can find all the references and latest happenings with the tool. So once you download this Excel tool, this is actually a macro enabled. So okay, you will have to enable the macro and trust the content.
So you're not about to fish all our users, right?
No. Definitely not. So trust me, it is not a malicious document. So you can trust on me and you guys. Actually, I have my test use case was with Drew, who has tested this tool, and he has been using in his projects successfully. So that's a very good thing. So once you start and open the Excel tool, it is there are first thing is there are default configurations you can tweak around as per your needs. First two are how you want to show the scores. For example, you can say up to 35%, I want to show it as red. And anything above 70%, I want to show it as green. Or you can change it. Okay, if I want to achieve my compliance, I want to at least anything above 90% is what I claim to be. It is more secure. So then we can change it, and automatically the scores are adjusted and shown in a different color scheme. The third parameter is the include not applicable in the scoring calculation. So every verification topic has 4 choices you can select from: pass, fail, not applicable, and three choices, sorry. So when you say not applicable, then you want to include that in the scoring calculation or not. That is what that parameter drives. So for example, like when we look at the authentication controls, if you have delegated the authentication mechanism to any federation service, then we don't need to worry about what controls we need to put in place with regards to authentication verification requirements. So we can just say not applicable to my set of controls. So the last parameter is not a mandatory, but this is something I put together for a fun. So you can actually change the color scheme for the Excel file. You can change it to the color you like, and then it will automatically change in every sheet. Okay, so once you do this, the next thing is, I think I missed this parameter. This is the parameter where you select the ASVS level. Currently, there are 3 levels. So we have level 1 and 2, 1, 2, and 3. So if you select level 1, then automatically the controls verifications which are not applicable to a particular verification topic, they are all automatically hidden, and all the scores are reset. And the score is automatically recalculated. So now it became 131 controls. So then finally you will go through answering the controls from V1 to V14 and fill up your answers. And in the background, the score is automatically calculated in the scorecard. And there is a nice chart, radar chart is drawn automatically. Everything happens in the background. So yeah, that's That's all you need to do. Once you have completed answering all the questions and you're happy with your assessment, you can actually export these results out of this tool to a different, I would call different reporting or different platform if you want. So there are two ways. One is you just plain old copy and paste, copy it to different document and you're good to go. The second option is actually XML export. So then all you have to do is go to developer 2 tab and click export. It is automatically exported to XML file. And when XML is exported, this is how it looks. So then this is very useful if you want to integrate with any of the Jira ticketing or something like that, where you can integrate and create a tickets based on this, and we can ask developers to fix those issues. Yes.
If I could have $1 for every time someone asked me if I could automatically import things into Jira, I'd be a very rich man.
With this version, yes, with this version, I haven't done that integration.
But even manual is great. I'm just making fun. This is so as Jay's walking through this. I'm not sure about the other guys, but I've got a copy that's open here locally, and I'm just sort of going through it. There's a lot of work in this. A lot of work's been put into this. So I highly recommend people download this and even just to click around and play with it. This is really well done. This is really cool.
Yeah, it gets into a lot of the detail that you need for each of these, right? And as you're filling it out, there are two things, right? I mean, one is it's summarizing all the data back, giving you a score, but you have like the mother of all spider graphs on the scorecard, which I think is awesome, right? Because everybody wants to figure out how to do that. And when you put it across the 14 domains, it's a visual representation for people to know which sections they're strong in and which sections they're not strong in. And if you think about prioritizing kind of activities to improve your overall maturity when it comes to application security, visually seeing it as a spider graph, I think helps people sometimes go, oh yeah, that whole section on APIs and web service verification, we're not doing very well. We might want to spend a little more time maturing that, right? And the spreadsheet then gives you that section and all those requirements to say where are you off, and helps to give you a little bit of a guideline on which controls you need to go implement.
Definitely, you hit the nail on head. So when we drill down, we can actually, there are subsections within each of the verification topics, so we can actually drill down and see how we are exactly doing with respect to each of those subtopics. And also we can straight away navigate from the scoring sheet to the respective sheet. Now it will take me to the API web service verification requirements, and I can see where exactly I'm doing wrong or where exactly I need to improve. This good thing about is since I took exact copy of the OWASP PDF document, so it has all those links to various links, OWASP links, where we can actually refer right from this Excel tool. So I can go to this OWASP website right from the tool. Everything is in one place. And also I have included a references section in this tool. So each verification topic has its own set of reference documents where we can go and take a look how we can tackle those controls.
All of that is a fantastic amount of information that I think also can be self-service for developers, and kind of also, as Matt was describing, now you can visualize your application, but you can also then start to do peer comparisons as well as find those trends across multiple applications because you've unified how you're collecting this data and how you're presenting this data. So, Jay, I think that's a fantastic amount of work that you've done to help someone be able to start a program that's actually based on metrics and based on evidence and what does their application security look like. One final question I want to throw out for you: what's next for the for your work here? Is there something that you'd like to call out for some help on, or can we look for something else in an upcoming version update of your spreadsheet?
So this document is completely aligns with the current version of the OWASP ASVS 4.0. So, and at this moment, I cannot think of any improvements, but if I'm open for anything, like a simple thing is, okay, now we have the XML file. How can I write an easy script to import it into my Jira? So that's a very good thing. We can think of some of the improvements there. Otherwise, just go and take a look at this Excel file. There are a lot of good things you can make use of for any of your other Excel projects, because we complain about Excel a lot, but if we do it right, it can be a powerful tool.
Yeah, and anybody who's doing the alignment to compliance, you've got the NIST references in here, so you can see how the control aligns to certain sections of NIST. I know PCI is only 3.2.1 and 6.5, I think, but I'd love to know which ones cover which, just a recommendation. You also have the old links to the old OWASP as well, which I think is interesting, right? So these are all kind of all linked in the spreadsheet right here in front of us.
Yes, it has a links. It has a reference to the OWASP. It has a, when we say look at this control verification topic, it says C1, that's actually proactive control. So that is a very good thing. Like, we have everything is in this Excel tool, so we don't need to go anywhere else for looking around how we can implement or how we can break down these controls. One thing I forgot to mention you guys was how the actually scoring works. So currently, every verification topic is considered as one. For example, for this verification, if you come up with 2 controls, and if you fail in one of the control, then the whole verification fails. That means you will lose that. So even though you have accomplished 50% for that verification, but tool doesn't take that into consideration, that is something you may need to keep in mind.
Got it. The other interesting part is if you're doing a threat model or a risk assessment, you've got all the mappings to the CWEs in here as well. So if you think about doing kind of that upfront, where are the potential threats and risks that you might reference the CWE, now you can go through the spreadsheet and say, show me all the controls that mitigate these potential CWEs, because you have that mapping in here as well. And if you're really doing a really good job at risk management or threat modeling, there's an interesting way to use that data in the other direction to identify some of those compensating controls.
Yes, correct.
That is cool. Yeah, I think, Jay, you've put together quite a bunch of Excel formulas here, and you've cooked up quite a spreadsheet. So I wanted to thank you once again for that.
Yes, thank you. I just forgot to tell you guys one thing. So this actually Excel file has been protected by password. So, but if somebody wants to tweak it around and make it specific to their needs, I'm happy to share that password with any of the people who ask me. I'm happy to share it, and make use of it.
So I feel a quick comments there. I know we're running out of time. I want to wrap up. I'd suggest putting that password into the README, and then as looking at this GitHub, we've got there's ability to put wikis in here, issues in here, pull requests. So folks, if you want to become part of the community, you don't have to be writing code. So open source isn't purely about software. It could be documentation, could be feedback, could be whatever it is. Check out what Jay's done here. Take a look at it. Give him any feedback. Help help us all become better people at this type of stuff. He's done a great start, but we can still have space to improve.
Yeah. I think that's a great point to end on, and wanted to say thanks again, Jay, for taking that initiative to build up this kind of community aspect in this work, so that others can take advantage of it, benefit from, as well as build on top of it. So thanks again.
Thank you guys for inviting me. Thank you very much.
Cool. And I want to thank Matt and John for joining me as well. And we're going to take a quick break, and we'll return with news of the week.